welcome to another episode of Remakes Reviews. This episode, we're going to talk about Funny Games, the 1997 Austrian version, and the remake, which was from 2007 and remade in America, but with the same director, which is particularly interesting. And my guest host is Rita May. If you want to give us some info about your background.
So, hey, all right, I am Rita May. I am a makeup artist. I am particularly a film makeup artist, and I like to do special effects. Funny Games is very dear to me because it inspired me to, be a part of special effects makeup and to be a part of psychological thrillers and horror movies, just because I thought this movie really broke a lot of rules,
Mm-hmm.
which I love breaking rules in film, and I love funny games. So I am definitely a fan of this film. This film definitely inspired me to just be a filmmaker in general. So yeah.
I'm not really a horror fan. I feel like it's either really scary to me or so bad that I just hate it. But when it comes to like thriller, it's very different. I think the tension is a lot more
Yeah.
exciting than just
Mm.
like, we're trying to scare you. It's like, we want you to feel the anxiety. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. What's
And
going
they
to
do
happen
it
next?
very right, and they do it very well in funny
Hmm.
games. So, for we're gonna spoil funny games, and
Yeah.
funny games is a great movie where it's taken place in this elite summer home place where people go and take their summer vacations, and these two young gentlemen have come to this summer vacation town to sort of just come prey on these elite families. And they've come to this particular family, and it's just they've come to like play a game essentially, but this very dragged out psychological game. And they it's almost so hard to tell you the full synopsis of this story because they go through such a mind fuck, excuse me, but they go through such a mind fuck of with themselves, with Peter and Tom. And Peter and Tom, you don't really know exactly who they are or where they come from. What you know is that they're just there to play a game on the elite. And they go through the bet, and they eventually establish the bet in this game that the family will be dead by 9 a.m. And that's when the reality really sets in for this family that either they're going to fight for their lives or they're going to be dead. And quickly they learn that they're going to be dead. uh, so uh you know uh I like how in some instances we get to see death, and in some instances it's really left to our imagination, where the Tom and Peter are left playing eeny, meeny, miny, mo with the family as to who will die. And I think it's Tom walks off to have a sandwich,
Hmm.
or I think so. And then the gun goes off, so you don't really know who dies. So it's not a full exposure as to who got to die first in this
Hmm.
family, which I just think is very, very interesting. And I think there's several parts in the film where the fourth wall is broken,
Hmm.
right? Which
Yeah,
is
those are the parts where I was like, very cool. Thank you.
yeah, which you're just like, "Did that really just happen? Did
Yeah.
this just happen? The fourth
Like, I'm
wall just was
talking with
broke."
him? Yeah.
Yeah, right, where just so many rules are broken. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, so, yeah, that's
Yeah, I guess to finish off, so we find out that it's the son who was murdered first,
yes, so
and
it's the
then
son, and then the dad had always been injured, right? So the
Mhm.
dad was
Yeah.
always they're very
In like the first
strategic
20 minutes,
in
the
their
dad
games,
is
right? Is sort of knocked off, and
yeah.
just because, he gave a slap, and it's very they're very strategic. It just I can't even say it, but they know what they're doing, and you
Mhm.
quickly find that out. You're rooting for the family, but you quickly find out that
Right.
these gentlemen know exactly what they're doing, and they love to play this game. The dad is quickly killed next, but
Mhm.
in that scene is, they reference it as the remote control scene, right? Where the wife has the chance
Mhm.
to go and has the chance to kill one of the boys, and kills one of the boys,
Mhm.
but it's in some ungodly power that the other gentleman picks up the remote,
Mhm.
just any remote in the house, and is able to rewind the whole film. And that is it's completely shocking,
Right.
because for the audience, now you know that there is absolutely has never been
Mhm.
any chance for this family to survive, because he's always had complete control as to where this movie is going. And
Mhm.
this movie has always been going to the family's death.
Yep.
And then the wife is left alone, and alone on the boat, and they're heading to the other house, to another neighbor that they had met, and they're going to breakfast, and they're running the same routine, and it's a cycle, and and you really just don't know where these boys came from and who they are, and it's sort of left
And
to
why? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that the it's interesting one that they are like named Peter and Paul, but then they also go by Peter and Tom. And like they
Yes.
like switch names, so you're like, wait, I don't really understand what's going on. Like, is that part of just pure confusion that they're trying to give to the family or to the audience or to both? But they have a very particular scheme where that they use to get into each family's home. Is like they act like they're friends of the neighbor. They come over for eggs. The family gives them eggs, and once like a vampire, once they're inside the house, you can't get
They
them.
won't
You
leave.
can't get
They
them to
won't
leave.
leave.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, and then they do that same pattern, which is really interesting. But the breaking the fourth wall, I thought was a really cool choice. And then the remote control scene was awesome because it's totally unexpected. You expect like,
Right.
oh, okay, like many action thrillers, like there's redemption for the main characters. They can get out of this, and then you realize, no,
There's right.
that's
There's
not the
not a
case.
chance. That I mean, that's why I fell in love with the film. I watched that when I was young, and I was like, did they really just do that in a
Mm-hmm.
film where they had the character pick up the remote control and completely change the direction as
Mm-hmm.
to how that character wanted it to go, and that was that. So I definitely salute the direction of
Mm-hmm.
that film and of that writing of the film. I mean, I literally, when I was younger, watched the film 2 times in a row because I was blown away. So, and Michael Pitt's acting creeped me out, so I loved it. I
Mm-hmm.
definitely loved it, but, definitely going back and watching the original this time and seeing how the original was, I was impressed how they got a Long Island location to almost look like an Austrian location.
Mm-hmm.
Besides like the color grading looking the color grading was off. The
Right.
color grading was off. That's what it was. Everything was lighter and whiter, but it
Mm-hmm.
looked more elite in
Mm-hmm.
in the remake to me. So,
Yeah, I didn't realize it was the same director for the
same.
remake. So
Same.
I was like furiously writing notes like why what's the purpose of making a shot for shot remake? Like there's no point.
Right.
And then I finished the movie and was like it's the same director. Now I'm even more confused because why would you make the same film a decade later
Right.
in America? Like it doesn't make sense to me. So I was trying to look up the reasoning and he's just like, "Oh, Like I wanted to. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I was looking it up too, and he was like, "Oh, I just wanted people to enjoy it without subtitles." And I was like, "Oh, like,
Yeah.
thank you?"
Right.
Like, you wanted people not to read and enjoy the visuals and the aesthetic, which it's very aesthetic. It's very,
Mhm.
like, very clean and sharp, and it's very interesting to go back and do one of your own films
Yeah.
like that.
I thought that was a peculiar choice, but he seems kind of like uh how I think like how artists are perceived as a little bit more eccentric.
Yes.
So I would say he seems to fall into that category. But with the rewind scene, I didn't catch it in the original, but in the remake, he's actually hitting the volume down button to rewind.
Is he?
Yeah.
Is he? That's very funny. I
Yeah.
didn't
So I
catch
was
that.
like, I wonder if that's the same in the original. Like, does it not even matter the button, or is this just like the remote control that they had for
Yeah, like
production? Yeah.
and it's like a DVR, not a DVR, but it's a DVD for
Mm-hmm.
say VCR, and like,
Mm-hmm.
the decade things are changed like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a flip phone, not like a Nokia
Yeah.
brick,
Yeah, it's
but
just the little things.
very,
It's
very,
more
very minor changes.
updated. It's
Yeah.
very like modern. It's a
Right.
very
Yeah. By like five
modernized.
years, he hasn't even modernized at the 10-year difference.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So,
It's I feel like there are a lot of plot holes, but I don't think this is the type of film where that really matters because you're already in a universe that doesn't make sense.
yeah.
But there's a lot of times where I'm going like, why isn't the family actually fighting for their lives? Like they're just kind of cowering in fear for most of
Right.
it.
Like, why isn't, like, they grab the knife and,
Right.
like, stab them?
Right.
The dad's really like, is the dad's, like, really hurting that much?
Hmm.
Like, is it really hurting
Like
that much,
they
the
broke
dad's
it.
leg?
Yeah.
Right. And, I did notice that in the original, the dad's leg looks a little more messed up than in the first. And I think the makeup-wise, in the original, even the wife looks a little more beat
Hmm.
than in the remake. She has bruises, she has more welts.
Hmm.
So it looks they were made to look stronger, I think, in the original. So as we're like in the remake, in a way, Michael Pitt is very like seductive in his, psychological thriller pretty boy.
Right.
He's very like that in my kind of watching way. As where,
I beg to differ, but
you know,
to each their own.
to each his own, to each his own.
Yeah.
As where like in the original, I think they were stronger. They were
Hmm.
made to look a little bit stronger.
And I think in the original they were almost more ominous. In the remake, it's like they seemed as if they could possibly be your friendly neighbors,
Yes.
and then except for when they're saying more diabolical lines, they still kind of seem like we could be just like the next house over's
Right.
kids. Yeah.
Right. Right. Right.
I What did you think about Naomi Watts acting? Because for the first 20 minutes of the remake, I was like, this is awful. She is better than this.
It's okay, right? It's
Yeah.
okay. And like people have a problem with the remake because it's Naomi Watts, and because when you use a big star's name like that, it takes it out of the reality of this is a normal family.
Right.
Um but I mean, it's really fun to watch her die at the end.
I think like once it started being more stressful for her, I think she did a great job. But it's
Right.
like the beginning, more lighthearted moments. I was like, why are you forcing it? Do you not have
And
lighthearted moments in your real life to like not know what it's
yes.
like?
And even, like, comparing the mothers, like, even in the beginning, the mother would laugh much more in the beginning. She'd be like,
Mhm.
The Austrian mother would be like, oh,
Right.
not once. I don't think Naomi Watts like once laughed
Yeah,
in
I
the
don't think
beginning.
so
She
either.
was very like, that just like that Hampton's mother, just
Mm-hmm.
very Hampton's mother, just very uptight. So I guess like
But
I'm just in New York. I'm used to mothers being very uptight. So then when I watched the remake, I was like, wow, they're having a good time out there, huh?
yeah.
They're supposed to be having a good time.
Right.
Yeah. So that is a difference in their acting.
Yeah.
But I do think I enjoy Michael Pitt's acting more, not because I'm biased to Michael Pitt, not because I'm biased, but I just think Michael Pitt is creepier. I think
Yeah.
there's something behind his eyes that's just a little bit creepier, that he could snap a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
than the original guy. The
Yeah.
original guy, he was very skinny and he
Mm-hmm.
just looked like a tennis player.
Right. In his short shorts.
Yeah, just looked like a tennis player. And I liked how in the remake how they were matching in white.
Mm-hmm.
In the original they weren't matching in white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that the thing I forgot had happened in the original too was when like the neighbor comes over with the Peter character.
Yes.
I totally had forgotten that until I watched the remake and was like, "Oh, okay, that's how they interacted." But then
Yes.
what a terrible neighbor that he just brings this villain over who's probably holding him hostage instead of
Right,
being like, "Call somebody."
there's no
Yeah.
like flutter of the eyes.
Right.
There's no like there's no
SOS.
nothing.
yeah.
There's nothing. Like
No,
their
like, do you have a
child's
cell
dead.
phone? Right.
And that's, I guess, as an audience, we have to believe that's how controlling
Mhm.
these gentlemen are.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess, we get a taste of that with the egg scene.
Mhm.
The confusion, the eggs. Well, it's just about the eggs. I just, it's your dog that made me drop them. You're just supposed to give me the
Right.
eggs. It's
Yeah.
a lot of gaslighting. It's a lot of like,
Mhm.
what do you mean? It's
Right.
you. It's you. It's you.
Mhm.
You're the one who made me do this.
Right.
So it's behind that. You let me in because you said I could take a shot outside. Well,
Right.
it's not my fault I killed the dog.
That's
It's
and that's one of those like unspoken rules, right? Is that you don't kill the dog and you don't kill any children in movies. And Michael Haneke, I'm not sure how to say his name, the director is like, he also wrote it. It's like we're doing both of those first.
right.
like,
Right.
like
And
you're gonna tell me
I
not
so
to,
salute
I'm gonna
that.
do it. Yeah.
And I so salute that. I'm like,
Mhm.
"Oh, Alexa, we're not Alexa."
the moment when the son does get away,
Yes.
I feel like he did that just so we think, oh, there could be.
Oh, every time I watch it, I'm like, does he get help?
And then the kid
Does
gets
he
the
get help?
gun, and so you're like, oh, okay,
I'm like,
great. He's gonna
does
kill the
he get
villain.
help?
And
Yeah.
then no.
Yeah. No, he doesn't like even like get to the street at that point.
Yeah.
That's like another like little plot hole. Nope. He doesn't get away there. No.
Mm-mm. No, but I mean, I understand that he runs to the neighbor's house as if they can help him, and then sees a dead body.
But like, these people are also just like, oh, of course the neighbors aren't dead. These
Right.
people came from their house.
Right.
Nah. That's just like that's the only silly part of the movie. It's just
hmm
like, oh, what would the neighbors think? That's like the whole thing of the movie too, is like, what would the neighbors think? Don't worry. You can go, like, you can leave us. Even though he broke his leg, we won't tell the neighbors this happened to us because
Right.
what would the neighbors think?
hmm
Oh, we're in an elite part of town. We're the rich. We can't say that we did something and we let someone in the house and we had a home invasion. What would the neighbors
Right.
think?
How embarrassing.
Right. Right. And it's like
Yeah.
some and that's also why I think why I do end up liking Naomi Watts for the role because she's also like what would the neighbors think, you
Mhm.
know? And why she fits for the role in that way. Naomi Watts.
Yeah. It's interesting the use of like that really aggressive metal. There's in the intro where it's
Oh my god, it's my
classical and then
favorite.
suddenly it's just like
Wah,
bam.
wah, 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 wah. Yeah,
And
yeah.
when I was watching it, I thought like, oh, is this part of the classical song? Like, is this, a mix? And that's
And
why her husband couldn't guess it. And then no, that was just like,
their
uh,
song.
yeah,
It's like their song, and it's just like them casually still talking in the background, and
right.
it's like to disturb the audience, and it also
Hmm.
has like a very abrupt like stop
Hmm.
to audio sound wise, and you just like are thrown back into the movie, and you're like, what? Like
Right.
why was intense screamo just playing? Like that's actually one of my favorite parts of the movie is like when you're just like thrown into some like intense metal.
Hmm.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, and at the end when they do it too, you're like, oh wow, okay, here
Yeah.
we go.
Yeah. You're just like, "Oh, are they some metalheads? Like, is that who they are?" Nope, they just that's their song.
Right.
Yeah. It's just like some like metal provoking sounds, you
Hmm.
know? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it works too because especially with the intro, you're like, oh, relaxing, classical, do 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 do, and then like, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
take
just
it
to make you
away.
uncomfortable, to make the audience, like, super uncomfortable.
One of the final notes I wrote was like, maybe it's best that they do die in the end because who wants to like live after suffering through up to 24 hours of just like psychological and physical torture? And like your child's dead, your dog's dead, and your husband, like what else is there?
Yeah, I mean, like, it would be a good story to tell, and, like, she would be able to, like, help people who, like,
Yeah,
suffered from other home invasions, I
right.
guess,
It'd just be so traumatic.
but, maybe she's, yeah, no, they're just on a killing rampage for the elite, and
Hmm.
they literally aren't taking anything from them but their lives, and for no damn good reason, and it's just their lives are literally taken in vain. So,
Yeah,
it's an awful movie, but it's a great
yeah.
film at the
Hmm.
same time.
Right, like the story
Um
is not inspiring, but the craftsmanship is great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Very, very, very great. Very fun.
It's also neat that scene when the family is asking them like, "Why are you doing this?" And the Michael Pitt character, Peter, is just coming up with dramatic scenarios to be like, "Do you believe this traumatic thing happened to my partner or
Yeah. He's like,
what
oh
about
yeah,
this one?"
oh
Yeah.
yeah. Do you want to believe this? How about this? Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
It's like
We don't know who they are and why they have
whatever
so
you
much
want to
power.
believe. Sure.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
you get it. You get it. Yeah, you
Right.
think you get it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that
Right.
golf ball scene at the end is very cool when it rolls in. It's its own horror element that brings you back
Yes.
to the beginning when they first get the golf club and the golf ball in his pocket. And but just like the shot is so cool because it's an empty corridor and this little golf ball.
Right. All it's the vision and that's really why, that's why the director said that he made the film again. It's
Mm-hmm.
because of it's the visual shot for shot remake of wanting Americans, to just look at the visual aspect of it. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something to be said about it,
Yeah, that's cool.
that it's a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, it does have cool shots. I liked the acting, I think, in the original better than the remake, but I also like it's not awful in the remake. It just
I
doesn't. I guess because the original feels a little bit more indie, just because it's not big names I
Yes.
know. I
Yes,
think that's
yes.
really the only reason why.
And it feels like real people, and
Hmm.
it feels more real. I
Right.
definitely agree. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
that could be your neighbor.
Yeah. Yeah. This could
And
happen to
hopefully,
you.
ugh. Well, if my neighbors ever come over with a strange man, I'm just gonna say bye.
And asking for eggs.
Right? Like, no.
No eggs, no sugar, can't borrow
Yeah.
none of that. And
Nope.
no thank
There's
you.
nothing in my kitchen. I don't even have one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh goodness. I mean, I just yeah, I think they just did a really good job even just finding that a kitchen and a house and just everything that looked like the
It was
original.
basically the same. Yeah. It's, and even the wardrobe is like the same for the
Yeah.
family.
Yes.
When she put on that oversized like sweater vest, I
Yeah.
was like, what? Even this is
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah.
The only thing that was really different was that Naomi Watts couldn't put her dress back on. She had to sit around in her underwear.
Yes. Oh my god, I actually wrote that note down. Why did she have to be naked? We don't
Right.
really know.
Unless it's like, did he study American films and was like, oh, they love gratuitous nudity, so I'll almost give them that?
Yeah, I don't know why that
Yeah.
had to happen, but it had to happen, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking though, because the films came out 10 years apart, probably having, like, if I had seen the original 5 to 10 years ago and then recently watched the remake, I don't know if I would have realized that they were shot for shot remake. I think I would have been like, oh, this is also very good, you know?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
watching them so close together, of course, you can't help but be like, oh, wow, it's the same movie.
Oh man, I've watched Funny Games, the remake so many times that like then going back and watching the original,
Hmm.
I'm just like, "Oh no, like that was a shot for shot." Like
Yeah.
someone did that shot for shot. Who did that shot for shot? You
Yeah.
know? So I definitely was so surprised and appreciated the remake so much because I was like, wow, they nailed that. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, of course they nailed it because it was the same guy.
Right. Yeah.
If they didn't, it would have been a problem.
Right. And unless he would have had to drastically change things because the original didn't actually stand up to what he wanted to make or
Yeah.
something. But yeah,
Yeah. Right.
I feel like that's a weird amount of pressure to put on oneself, though, to be like, I have to remake this and it has to look exactly the same.
Right.
Right. Like, I would be so stressed at doing that. I'd feel like, I'm confined and I really have the pressure to make something look exactly the same. And I'm doing it to myself, which is worse.
It's so much pressure,
Yeah.
but it looked great. I thought I mean I could tell that it was studied to a T. So
Hmm. Yeah.
like every department studied it
Yeah.
to a
That's,
T.
yeah. When,
So
before I realized it was the same director, I was like, man, everybody was just like, they must have just taken photos of like each key scene. And like, all right, exactly
like
this.
each corner of each frame, like,
Yeah.
how can
Hmm.
we get it right? So
Then you realize, oh, they probably all had to watch the original together.
yeah, yeah. And I know that the remake was shot on Long Island too. Shot somewhere on Long Island, which I think is pretty
That's cool.
interesting. Yeah, right?
Local for
Good old Long
us.
Island. Right, good old Long Island film.
There's another thought that is like on the edge of my brain somewhere. Oh, I think this would be a great film for like film students to watch because I think when you're in school, you kind of learn that like there's this very typical structure that Hollywood movies have or any real story has, like the hero's journey, blah blah blah, whatever. And I
Mhm.
think this would be a great thing to watch, or just anyone that really studies film, to be like, no, you can break the rules and still make an engaging movie. It doesn't have to resolve in a manner that would make the audience happy. You
Right.
just have to tell the story you're wanting to tell. Or in the director's case, I think he really just wants to be a little bit more experimental, which I think is great. And it shows like a larger audience can watch these more experimental films.
Mm.
Like, we're not
and enjoy them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't have to resolve in the protagonist making it out alive,
Mm-hmm. Villain going
or
to jail. Blah. Yeah.
right. Yeah, it doesn't have to. We don't have to watch the same kind of stories all the
Mm-hmm.
time, and directors and writers can have freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To
Yeah,
be
we're
creative. I mean, maybe it's
we're
also like studio executives should watch it and
yeah.
remember
Yeah. Mm,
because they're the ones really who have the issue. But
yeah,
yeah,
I feel that, I know.
that's cool. Definitely
Ah.
worth watching either one of the films. But I think the remake's easier to come across since it's on Prime.
Yeah, mhm.
Do you have any other thoughts on the original or the remake?
No, no, I mean, nope, nope, I mean, my only my cool thing is that I got to meet Michael Pitt once, and he was as scary as he was as in Funny Games, and I love him so, so much, but he has a dog named Satan, and
Oh.
he's like the character in Funny Games, and he just has those bright blue eyes, and he looked at me with those bright blue eyes, and he was very, very, very kind, and I did makeup for him, and he was very, very nice, but I could not help but think like, "Yo, like, dude, I saw you in this movie Funny Games,
Right.
and now that's why I do makeup, and you're terrifying."
Right.
But
In a good way?
in a
Yeah.
good way, in a good way. Yeah.
Well, then to wrap up, do you wanna tell folks how they can find you online if they wanna check out your makeup skills?
Sure, sure. So, okay, my Instagram is Rita, 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 May, Mae, makeup. So it's spelled Maekup. So full thing is Rita, Maekup. That's my Instagram. And then my website is the same thing.com. And that's how you can find me and my special effects. And you can check out what I do there.
Cool. Thank you for joining me. This was a fun episode, and I wish I hadn't watched them, like, a day apart because I think it would have been more enjoyable to have given them some breathing room, but still great. Still fun movies to watch, and
I'm
now I
glad you
wanna check
enjoyed
out
them.
the rest of the director's work too.
Yeah, yeah, I think I definitely want to check out something else he's done
Yeah.
because I've never done that myself. So it's time. It's
Right.
time to check that out. Yeah, I'm
I'm
glad you
hearing
enjoyed my
that
suggestion.
Amore is supposed to be really good by
I've
him, so
heard of it, and that's what I definitely want to
yeah.
check out.
We're like
Yeah.
our like post podcast homework.
Yeah.